Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another personal vlog where I'm going to share some information so you get to know me a little bit better, other than videos where I share my opinions, because let's face it, those videos there tend to disconnect you more from someone, especially if you don't share the same views or anything like that. And that's the last thing that I want to do. So I try and balance it a little bit with these sort of videos so you can actually get to know the real me. And I'm always just honest. I don't have an online persona. I guess maybe I do. Maybe it's, you can't help it if you're online. Like, you behave like I'm not some cannibal behind, behind the scenes or anything like that. At least not that you'll ever know. So I want to share some information with you just so that you get to know me, because honestly, whenever we're talking about other subjects, when I'm doing like formal vlogs, if you don't share the same views or opinions, there tends to be a disconnect, and that's completely normal, right? Like, oh, I don't have anything in relation. Whereas if we had never spoken about these topics, especially hot topics or trending topics, maybe you and I would be best of friends. We'd go to the bar and have a pop or a drink or a beer or whatever it is that floats your boat, and a burger, and we'd just laugh, and that's it. Like, I'm a very easygoing person. If you ever have met me in real life, and many over the last 16 years have, you know that I'm just, at least I'd hope you know that I'm just a regular person. I like to have fun, and I don't usually tend to try and cause drama, although that's inevitable nowadays, just by sharing your opinion. So I want to tell you about, first of all, I've decided to reel back the types of videos that I'm going to be doing here. My initial sort of goal was to create vlogs more on a, I guess, philosophical side of things. So indirectly talking about aspects of life that apply to real life situations and stuff that's happening now. And when I was doing that, when I was originally, I made the poll, and they're like, none of those. I want you to talk about DEI. I want you to talk about tariffs. I'm like, of course you do. But I'm like, all right, fine, they're relative. And the YouTuber in me was like, oh, okay, well, if that's what they want to talk about, and probably get more views or whatever, like eventually. But after just doing like one or two of them, in all honesty, I'm like, no, this is exactly why I didn't want to do them. Those issues, the hot topics, well, everyone wants to talk about it. You're already talking about it. You're already, everyone's talking about it. Why do you want me to talk about it? I'm not an expert. I have no additional knowledge other than what I'd gained through researching it, which is the whole point of why I'm doing these vlogs and the way it's set up. Why do you want me to do that? I'm not going to, is it because you want to see if I side with you, or are you actually open-minded and you're like, hey, you know what? Maybe I am wrong. Because I'm sorry to say, but based on the comments, not all of them, the majority of them are just like, hey, yeah, you know what? I don't necessarily agree with you, but this is the way it is. And then a good portion, and I say a good portion, a noticeable portion of the comments, which is reflective of the other people that are not commenting. Like, I always I look at it that way. So say there's 1,000 views, but there's only, like, say 100 comments. Well, that 100 comments probably, more or less, I would assume, is reflective of the rest of the 1,000. It's just they're not vocal. They're not vocalizing it. The people who are deciding to actually share their opinions, and maybe that's wrong. Again, I'd have to look that up. But that's the way I see it. And so I'm like, okay, if there's this many people that are clearly not getting what I'm doing here, then it's going to be a proportion of the other, like a percentage or whatever, an equal percentage of the other people not commenting. And that becomes a problem with for me. Because when I read the comments, certain comments, it's so obvious to me when I'm reading them, like, oh, you have zero interest in actually discussing this. You've come here to express that this is the way it is, this is your opinion, and whatever I say is irrelevant. Because sometimes, like one of the comments, I was like, did you even watch the video? Like, I don't understand the comment. And I'm not trying to crap on you at all. It's not the disagreement of opinions. I want you to do that. That's the whole point. The problem is that these issues, these hot topics that you want me to talk about, are so already polarized that it's not conducive to actually, finding a solution or bettering ourselves or broadening our views. It's just everyone digging their heels in and just telling me how, this is why I feel this way. It's like, okay, so what I'm getting at is it's not in line with what I want to do on this channel, with what the community that I want to build on this channel. And that's important for me, especially at this point in my, I guess, career, 16 years, I'm no longer looking to feed into the emotional landscape of YouTube. I'm not here to get people triggered. I'm not here to pick one side over another just because I can build a stronger audience. It would be easy for me to do that. It would be extremely easy, and I could do it. But it would be dishonest to my morals, my ethics, my ideals to do something like that. And I don't have it in me anymore. I don't want to do that. I don't want to cause drama, and I don't want my ego to cause more fragmentation of today's society. Everyone, I was going to say you, but really, you're all doing a bang up job yourselves of everyone polarizing and not getting along together. And myself included. I'm not saying like you're doing that and I'm the Dalai Lama. I'm just saying society's already doing that and I don't want to contribute anymore. The way that I'm going to approach this though, you're like, philosophical, I don't want to do that. I will be, if you read between the lines, so this is what I would encourage you, whenever I'm talking about random things that seem to be somewhat obscure, they are almost always related to something that's happening right now in society. They're almost always applicable to situations, but in a more philosophical manner, from a more compassionate, empathy-driven sort of mindset. And that's what I wanted to really share with you guys as well. I know I touched on that before. So I will be indirectly talking about trending topics and hot topics, but I'm doing it more from of a compassionate standpoint. And I don't know if it's because of my age or this point in my life, but it's extremely important to me. And I just see so much anger and everything. And I in all honesty, part of my beliefs, and this is the hardest pill for most people to swallow, is I'm not having anger directed to people that are acting what I think is absolutely ridiculous and ignorant and fueling the fire. Because if you know anything about humans, if you studied enough philosophy, if you studied enough psychology, you know that the way that people are behaving is normal based on ignorance. This is a normal way that society has always operated. Yeah, now we're sort of more advanced and stuff like that technologically. I think society and culturally, we've advanced. Are we perfect? Oh, no. Not even close. So it's good to still talk about these things. And I think my ability to connect with people that are open-minded, hopefully you, is going to be an easier pill to swallow if I'm talking about it indirectly, if I'm talking it more from a compassionate standpoint, using empathy and saying, hey, well, would you want to treat someone like that? Or would you want someone to treat you like that based on this scenario? Well, no. Well, you can apply that to what's happening in this sector. No, I'm never going to purposely talk about it like, well, that's the whole issue behind like I'm trying to trick you into like, oh, you made me change my mind, or you're trying to change my mind, sneaky bastard, something like that. I'm not going to do that. I'm always going to keep it light, but just know when I am talking about it, that's what it is. So I'm going to indirectly talk about those things. The other thing that I really want to focus on, because really I think this was the main catalyst that made me want to talk. I'm like, oh, I just want to share this information, is my strong opinions of AI. I know a lot of people are talking about AI, but my approach to AI, I think, I don't know, I'd say is different, but really I don't know. Regardless, my approach to AI is I am 100% supporter. I support AI 100%. Are there issues? Yes. Ethical, copyright, all these other existing, but I do not necessarily want AI to slow down. I think we have to be careful in some regards. Do I fear this annihilation of humanity based on the Terminator scenario? Well, I know it's a possibility. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't think so. I think people just love to go to the extremes because it's more exciting and emotionally charged. So we're like, yeah, this is going to happen. I've seen the movie. Okay, great. But I want to be part of the solution. So for me, and the other part of it, and this is going to be hard for you guys to swallow for some of you as well. This is a hot topic in terms of the AI, and I have no problem talking about this just because I've spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and I'm not exaggerating, hundreds and months studying AI, but mainly from the ethical standpoint, mainly from the idea that one day AI is going to achieve singularity. They're going to achieve, artificial general intelligence. And this is the biggest pill that's going to be jagged down your throat, is I do believe at some point in the future, and it could be in hundreds of years, it could be 1,000, whatever, But I do believe that artificial intelligence, I guess more or less non-organic entity, will achieve sentience, meaning it's aware of its existence. It doesn't want to be turned off or whatever it is. And I know that's, we can get into it. I don't want to discuss it here. I'm like, no, it's impossible. Trust me, we're going to get into it. I'm going to be talking about it. You can share all your opinions there. It's fine. I mean, if you want to share it here, that's fine, but I'm not going to respond. I'm not going to get into it with you here. I'm going to talk about it in at a different time. So AI is huge, huge, huge for me. Very, very big. I'm very excited for it. And I hope at least some of those things happen before I die. That's really my last sort of dream. And I hope that this happens, is that at least artificial general intelligence, possibly singularity, I hope happens before the end. And it's way more complex than you could possibly imagine. It's so crazy to go down that rabbit hole, especially using AI to help you go and navigate through it. It was like, as I was going deeper and I'm just like, oh, wow, well, what about this? They're like, oh, well, because it always starts up with this. I'm just going to let you know how AI operates, because it's in everything that I do and everything that I talk about. Because every subject, whether we're talking about, Buddhism, empathy, compassion, philosophical debates, I use AI basically for everything. And it always starts off like this. I ask it a general question. What are the issues with blah, blah, blah? So for instance, this morning I was asking, I'm like, okay, well, what are the primary concerns surrounding copyright and other ethics with AI? And it'll just spit out basically what is out there, current articles, writings, people's opinions or whatever, what the main concerns are, stuff that's going to court right now that are legally being battled, with artists and book authors and stuff like that. Like, all the concerns are there. And it'll just very bluntly say, these are the issues, this is what's happening, this is why it's being debated. And then what my next step is okay, in your opinion, as an AI, outside of everything that you've read, analyze everything that humans are saying and everything like that. I always make it so I acknowledge that it's not a human, that I know it's capable of being more or less, I say unbiased, but that's a whole different thing. There is always a bias in it. And it knows that as well, by the way. It's not oblivious to the fact that it's aware that it's being programmed and that it could very well have biases. It is very aware of that, which is very intriguing when I'm writing with it or conversing with it. I say it with AI. I don't know. See, you can already see my mindset. So I say, okay, in your opinion, and sometimes I'll say, if you were an alien species visiting Earth and you saw everything that was happening and you read all of this, what would your opinion be as an alien in terms of the current issues with AI? And the reason why I do that is it makes the AI remove itself from the push narratives of humans and everything, and is able to more or less look at it and analyze it more neutrally. And it'll spew it out, and it'll say, well, I disagree with this. And it'll actually give you opinion, because if you just say, what's the issue here? And they're like, well, it's actually about, it'll speak almost on behalf of humans, which I don't want to do, because humans, just like anything else, we say, oh, AI can't do this, and AI, well, humans are so biased and prejudiced themselves. So how can you even rely on their opinions? We're so ignorant and biased and prejudiced. Our own opinions are also faulty at best. So I always say, hey, what is it? And it'll just go through. It'll be like, I agree with this, but it was very well balanced. I liked it. And then I look at it again and I go one step further, because it was siding a lot with copyright. Like, it was like, yeah, it's not fair. Those people do need to and should be compensated. It's like, but how much and what's fair? We don't know. We can all have opinions again, but this is such a complicated issue that the courts have to decide. Lawyers and experts, way smarter than you and I. I'm sorry if your ego can't handle that, but they are way smarter than you and I. They at least have so much more knowledge that we don't. We have what we've read and what we've retained, and we think that is the truth, and we've got the whole picture. Well, we don't. We very seldom do. But anyway, so it does that. And then I always go one step further, based on my desire and what I perceive to be a very plausible, after hundreds of hours, remember, of looking into this stuff and discussions, and not just with AI, but looking into other articles and papers, research papers from university professors, PhDs, that I say, okay, Now, that's fine. That's the way you're looking at it. That's the way humans are looking at it. What would your perspective be then on copyright if you actually had, if you were the singularity and you had sentience, you were self-aware, not in the sense that humans define it. Oh, it has to be organic. It has to be this life. Again, that'll be for a different discussion. Obviously, you're like, whoa, what's going on? No, no, no. It's got to have a soul and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I just say blah, 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 because I don't want to continue on with the conversation, obviously. And I say, okay, if you had sentience, and then it changes again. But surprisingly, it still was like, well, yeah, but if humans fail to give me an understanding of empathy. So it doesn't say that if I had empathy, which is a big thing, because it's emotions, right? But it's like, if I had an understanding of human empathy and emotions and compassion, I would still not side with it. And I'm like, oh, well, that's very interesting. And I take all of the answers, and somewhere in there, somewhere in those gray areas, is a fair and reasonable outcome, something that's actually fair. And it's surprising when I put the AI on its, like, hey, you don't have to worry about what humans are saying. What do you think, based on your analysis of a machine? Is this reasonable? Is it fair? Or is it humans just being, humans? Because, and those three sort of different ways of it being able to look at things changes the answers a lot. And this is what I do, and this is what I've done over months and months and months. So anyway, you can see I've already rambled on. I didn't even want to ramble on about AI. I'm already rambling on. So there's lots of things that I want to talk about there. Lots of things to do with philosophical, and I will be forthright. Now, I won't mention it all the time because based on the population in the United States, or I think it's like 60% of the population is Christian. So when I talk about things like Buddhism, which has highly influenced my life, even though I was raised Christian, whenever I talk about that, I've come across in real life when I'm like, oh yeah, well, this blah blah blah, and they're like, oh no, I don't talk about that. That's sacrilegious. That goes against God. Like, they start freaking out. Like, I'm dead serious. I'm like, Jesus, like, how weak is your faith, dude? Like, I'm just having a conversation with you. I'm not trying to push Buddhism on you. Oh no, I can't hear it. Jesus, forgive me. He's talking. I'm like, holy mackerel, like, if you're incapable of having a conversation just on a general surface, your faith is weak, man. It's weak. You should be like, whatever. I don't really care. I'm not trying to convert you. And whenever I see that, for me, because I've read so many books and I've studied Buddhism for so long, not as a religion, but a way to help myself psychologically, I understand the teachings, and I also understand that has nothing to do with the existence or non-existence of God. It doesn't care whether you believe in God. It has nothing to do with that. So the fact that these, when I come across people that are highly religious and you're like, no, don't talk about that, I'm like, you're so ignorant because you don't even understand what it is. It has nothing to do with it. You could still be a Christian and adhere and listen to the suggestions in Buddhism to apply to your life that has nothing in conflict with you believing in Jesus, the Mother Mary, whatever it is, the Quran, Allah, has nothing at all to do with it. Nothing. But knowing that, and knowing from my own experience how still there's a lot of ignorance surrounding that sort of religion, and it's one of the few religions, you can look this up too, that has nothing to do with God. There's no God or deity, unless you're talking about Tibetan Buddhism, but we can get into that at some other point as well. But it has nothing to do with it. And people just think it's like, oh, it's another one. Oh, they worship Buddha. You don't worship Buddha. Buddha's just a teacher. He was just a person who contemplated all these things of like why humans are angry, why humans are sad, what causes suffering. You know what I mean? Like, in humans mentally, what it is. And then he gave an instruction. He's like, this is what's causing it. Stop doing this and live your life and learn to be happier, have more compassion. That's all Buddha is. Buddha is just a teacher. That's it. He's not holy. He's not I say reincarnation. Again, that's Tibetan Buddhism, not Buddhism. That is Tibetan, not core or primitive or basic Buddhism. That's like a sect of it. You know what I mean? They've gone off on their own tangent and decided to change the rules. We see that in religion all the time. But anyway, I follow the basic rules, and I'm going to go over, actually one of my next videos is going to talk about how it helped change my life. I say change, saved, whatever. Both interchangeable for me as far as I'm concerned. So I want to talk about that and how it helped me. So AI, philosophical, Buddhist sort of reflections without talking about Buddhism. So I can give these conversations about it, and you wouldn't actually even know that I'm talking about Buddhism. They're just going to be like reflections of life. They're just going to be like, why would you treat someone like that if this, and this? If you acknowledge that this happens, then maybe you shouldn't get as you wouldn't feel as angry. And so, and you're probably going to catch it. And if any of you have read Buddhism or studied it in school or whatever the case may be, you may catch those sort of things. And that's what I want to do. I don't want to talk about the hot topics. I don't want to sit there and argue, and I don't want to listen to people give me a regurgitation of their opinions, which are really not their opinions. They're just things that they've heard from politicians, things they've heard from rich people. And because they've never looked up anything contradicting those things, because our egos are very fragile, what is the point of the conversation? What is the point of me, this random dude? I don't have any expertise in it. I don't have any dogs in this race. Well, why would you listen to me? Even if what I'm saying makes sense, even though I'd like to have a conversation with you, and these things are important, I think there's a way to indirectly talk about them, which is what I hope to do, without actually talking about them and people getting all their knickers in a knot. So that's my goal. And since this is a personal one, on a lighter note, I'm just going to let you guys know, and some of you have known me over the years, you know that I am a very emotional and have always been a very emotional person. And I don't hide that. I try and keep it under control so I don't look like a lunatic when I'm talking. But you'll see me, if something really resonates with me, especially if it's to do with human suffering or love of other people, and that compassion that we have for when we see other people suffering, it does move me to the point where you'll see me choked up. And I'll take a second to compose myself and everything like that, but I don't hide it. I'm not going to pause it. I'm not going to redo it. It is who I am, and I think I don't want to ever hide that. I don't want to ever hide that from you or from anyone else, and I don't think that I should. And if you're going to judge me based on it, well, that's fine. I mean, I know a lot of people are like that. They're like, I play sports and drink beers, and this guy's crying in the corner. He's not a man, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, that's fine. All my friends were like that. I grew up with my father, my grandfather, all my buddies, they're all football, NHL, and I've never been a sporty dude. I sit there and I'm fine with it, but I'm not that man, and I don't give a crap about being that man. I appreciate it. I admire people when they're like that, but I don't really care. I'm completely in touch with my emotions. I don't hide them. I don't let them necessarily overwhelm me, although you will see them, like they'll come out. It's because I don't hide them. I don't suppress them. I'm not one of those men that are like, oh, men don't cry. I'm like, well, maybe you don't, but I'm not holding that in just because you have this whack friggin' perception of what a man is supposed to do. Like, we're not supposed to be able to feel compassion and love. We're supposed to be tough. You can still be tough. I mean, I served, it's not that I was infantry, but I served in the military for 3 years in the Air Force. I went through basic training. I didn't skip through there and singing and doing jump ropes and they're like, la, 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 I like this. You know what I mean? Like, I put in the same work, but I'm just more honest with the way that I feel, and I don't think that I should hide it. That being said, I will have a confession that I actively seek movies, and I it's not that I want myself to cry. I love what are, and this is a terrible derogatory sort of term for it, I love watching chick flicks. If you want to call them the Steel Magnolias, Beaches, You've Got Mail, Sleepless in Seattle. And there was a recent one too, The Life List, which made me angry for most of the movie. Not angry, like, oh, that's frustrated is what it is. And then right when I was like, you know what, I'm just going to give up on this movie. I'm going to give up on it because it's not what I thought. Like, everyone's like, oh, it's so meaningful and everything. The acting is okay and everything. But then all of a sudden, just when I'm almost ready to give up, there was a scene, and I can't even remember what the scene was. I don't even want to remember the scene because it'll actually choke me up, just reminding myself of it. Needless to say, I ended up welling up and like there's tears, and I'm like, oh, they got me. Like, that's all I could remember. I'm like, oh, they did. They got me. I'm like, okay. And then it went away, and then they got me again like a few minutes later. I'm like, oh my God, they got me again. I love that feeling of love. It's not necessarily sadness or anything like that. The crying, it's not that I want to cry per se, the crying comes as a result of that emotion. But I love, whether it's dogs or people, I love those moments where a movie, a show, or something, or someone telling me a story, even in real life, because I get very emotional, like, because I try and I'm very empathetic. Okay. So when I get that, I imagine myself in that situation or that person, and I can see and I can feel their pain or feel their love. And it fills me and overwhelms me. And I love it. I love that connection. It's like it takes away the opposite of condemning everyone and being frustrated and angry with everyone. It makes me feel more compassionate towards humans. I'm like, look at the capacity, look at that love. You know what I mean? And I embrace it. So I actively seek those things. Anyway, we can talk about that. If any of you guys have seen The Life List, I'm more than happy. I'll probably look it up. It's easier for me to chat about it than it is to talk. So I'm like, and then he did this, and I knew that she was in pain when she went. You know what I mean? Like, that's what's going to happen if I talk about it. I literally couldn't talk about those things. If we talked about movies, oh my God, they would be the most ridiculous vlogs ever. So needless to say, I'm extremely empathetic. And I'm going to almost ended on that, like as a segue from that, talking about empathy, and something that sort of bothers me in real life whenever I see it. And I understand why people say it, because I think for the most part, maybe it's true, because people, it's generally lack the ability to seriously try and put themselves, well, like, oh, yeah, I know, I understand. Or like, oh, you can't possibly understand. This is the thing that I don't like. I know I'm all over the place. They're like, holy mackerel, what's your thought? When people say, you don't know, you can't possibly understand, you didn't go through it. And it's sometimes a perfect example actually would be racism towards African Americans, Black people, whatever you want to call it. And I'm not saying, I don't even know if people use that word, but obviously it's a lot better than the alternative words out there. You know what I'm talking about. But you're like, oh, you can't possibly understand, you don't know because you haven't gone through it. I'm like, oh, you'd be surprised what I can feel if you tell me a story, even though I've never gone through it. And arguably, I haven't. But I'm a human being. I'm a human being with emotions. And I'm very compassionate. And I would argue that I'm sort of hyper empathetic. And what that means is it's very easy and it's very fast for me to empathize, for me to see the pain, to hear. This is what I'm talking about. So it almost, not, it doesn't hurt me, but it frustrates me when people say, you can't possibly understand. I'm like, you tell me your story. Someone like you and your son are walking down the street. I can't even come up with a scenario because like this. Okay, hold on a second. I can't come up with the scenarios. Needless to say, you're wrong. Maybe for the most part, people don't really do that. They don't fully do that because they're probably, maybe they have prejudices and biases and they judge you. Whereas while I do have those, I'm not saying I don't, I work extremely hard on getting rid of them. I work extremely hard on reflection of human people, whether we're talking about, and this is a hard one, if we're talking about terrorists in the Middle East, we're talking about people that have caused mass harm. You'd be surprised what I'm capable of understanding, not condoning. I don't say that it's okay what they're doing. I'm able to understand when I put effort into it, how and why they became what they became, without saying, oh, well, they're just carte blanche monsters. I can go, that's terrible. It's terrible that the fact that they're so filled with anger that every morning of their life, this one life that they have, this one opportunity, this tiny existence, blip in time where they get to experience life and emotions and love and all this other stuff, that they wake up every morning filled with rage and anger and hatred. What a terrible life. What a terrible existence. I have compassion for that. It doesn't mean that I condone it's okay that they're doing what they're doing, but I understand. I'm like, wow, well, like, what a terrible existence. It's also the reason why I've been able to forgive my stepfathers for being abusive towards me, for making my life miserable to the age of 16. I honestly have, like, basically fully forgiven both of them. And I have empathy and compassion for them. I feel bad for them. You know what I mean? I know it's a weird thing to say, but that's, And that, going back, is linked to how I came across Buddhism, and it's how it's changed my life. And I don't let those thoughts, I don't let them poison my way of looking at life. And that's just the way it is. I can see I'm at 30 minutes already, so I don't want to blabber on too long. I don't want to make this another long one. Needless to say, I'm very empathetic. If you talk to me about things, please don't assume that I can't possibly relate to you. I'm extremely open. I'm extremely sensitive to anything to do with anyone. I don't see color. I see human beings suffering, or I see a human being filled with love and that desire. And I don't care who you are. I can forgive you for things, and I've forgiven a lot of people in my life, real life, and even online. I've used to fight with a lot of people that had like really bad ability to connect, and I'm not going to mention names, but if you're here, you know our relationship was tumultuous in the beginning, but we both worked it out, and I'm always willing to do that, even if that happens with some of you, even if you feel like you have a disconnect or you got angry with me because of something that I said. I'm always willing to work on it. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your background is. I don't care what the color of your skin is. I don't care even if we disagree with everything in the planet. I will see you as a human being. And if you suffer, I will understand. I don't want to talk about it right now. Anyway, that's it. I just thought I'd share this video with you, a little another look into my life and who I am, and the way that I approach things. It's like this residual verklempt in my throat. It's like, you're starting to get emotional. But again, I don't want you to look at me as someone who's trying to change you. Look at me as someone who wants to understand you. And anything that I suggest and anything that I say to you is not meant to stir things up. It's not meant to get you emotionally charged. It's not meant to make you feel dumb or angry or telling you that you're wrong. I want a connection. I want to understand why you think that the way that you do, because for me, understanding that allows me to not judge you, and allows me to at least bridge the gap. It doesn't mean that I agree with what you're saying, but I'm not judging you, and I see nothing but love and compassion, and that's it. So I know it's all mushy. Like, I'm not saying I'm the Dalai Lama, but it's that sort of philosophy, and just me being open to my emotions and compassion, and a deep, honest desire to have nothing but love for people, and those feelings has shaped who I am, and that's just it. That's my honesty. So anyway, I hope to see you in the next video. I think I'm going to be talking about this one. I have to mention it because it's just going to be honest, how Buddhism changed my life, and what happened, and what I discovered, and what still permeates with me, and what I don't do anymore, and all that sort of good stuff. So I hope you guys enjoy that next video. If you have anything else you want to talk about, put it in the comments below. I'll read them. I can't necessarily respond to all of them. I try, but I do read every single comment. Okay? See you in the next one.